BookTube. Hello friends, welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and today is Sunday afternoon, April 26th, 2020, and it's the last day of the Amish in April readathon for this year. And I had a request from a subscriber, Terry Burgess. She mentioned that she might read The Fiddler with me, and Terry, if you've read it, let me know. I did finish it yesterday. And she also mentioned that she might like for me to do a video about my favorite Amish author, who is Beverly Lewis. So I thought, since Terry was the one who gave us the idea for doing the Amish in April readathon 3 years ago, that I might like to honor that request. And, you know, it's funny because it's been almost 5 years since I started doing BookTube, and one of the things that I thought I would do more of is author spotlight videos and focus on my favorite authors. And I have only done a couple of those. I went back through all of my videos in the past 5 years, and I only just finally in the last year or two, I did a video about Jan Karen, and then one, well, several about Laura Ingalls Wilder earlier this year. And the only other author-focused video that I've done is on Miss Read, and that was even before I ever read any Miss Read books. So I've still got a lot of ground to cover. I have some wonderful favorite authors that I want to tell you about in future videos. Meanwhile, I hadn't really thought about doing one on Beverly Lewis, but she is my favorite Amish author. I think she's probably known as the founder of Amish fiction. Between her and Wanda Brunstetter, they were at the forefront of Amish fiction, and both are fantastic authors. Of the two of them, I've only read 4 Wanda Brunstetter books, but I've read 20 Beverly Lewis books. So even though she's got about 100, or maybe a little over 100, I've barely touched the surface of all that she's written. I've read enough that I can tell you from my heart that I think she's a fantastic author, and I can highly recommend that you read some books by her. So I want to tell you a little bit about the books that I know about, at least the ones that I've read, and a little bit about, you know, what I know about her and her work, and we'll just go from there. So I will have a wrap-up video of what I've read for Amish in April readathon for this year. I finished an insane number for a week so far. This is the last day, and I have finished 9 books as of last night, and I've got 2 more underway right now, and then one of them's audio and one of them's print. If I can finish that audiobook and I still have time, there's another one that's not that long that will finish that series, and I may just go for that as well. We'll see how it goes. So I've finished 9, I'm going for 12, but we'll let you know after it's over, as soon as it's over, when you know, how I do on that. But for today, I just want to talk a little bit about Beverly Lewis. Now, Beverly Lewis grew up in Amish country. I believe she got most of her Amish inspired stories started with her grandmother or great-grandmother. It's in her bio. You're welcome to click on some links that I'll leave below to her website and everything, where you can read about her own experiences. But her first trilogy, I believe her first Amish book, called The Shunning, was loosely based on the stories that she knew about her maternal grandmother or great-grandmother. And some similar things happened to that woman, and are, you know, at least the circumstances are kind of similar. So that whole trilogy is called The Heritage of Lancaster County, and it starts with the Shunning, then the Confession, and the Reckoning. And it is about a young Amish woman with some secrets, some mysteries about her past that she finds out about as, you know, as an adult. And it's just very, very interesting. I loved that trilogy. It's been a long time since I've read those, and it's definitely something I would read again, and I highly recommend that series to you. Now, it's not the first book that I ever read by her. When I was a young married, I believe when this first book in this duology came out, the Postcard, it says in my book that I believe it was published in 1999. I got married in late 1998. So I got this book probably during my first year of married life. I absolutely loved it. And as soon as I knew there was a sequel, I got it. And I have had these on my shelf ever since. I listened to them, I think the abridged versions on audio a year or two ago, just to kind of remind myself of what they were about, and enjoyed them just as much. So this book is about a young widow. I want to say, I don't remember the details of how she was blinded, but I believe her husband was killed and she was blinded in the same circumstance. And so now she's living with, I think, a relative and a bed and breakfast, and she helps out as much as she can there. She's able to do a lot of things because, you know, as someone who's blind, you're still able to do a lot of things, just maybe not the exact same things that she had planned, but she's still, you know, a grieving widow, and she has a little girl, so she's managing, but she's very shy and reserved. Meanwhile, a young man who is English comes to stay at the bed and breakfast. He finds a mysterious postcard that is written in German, and it's kind of wedged in the crack of the desk that that's in his room where he's staying. So he brings it to the proprietor and asks about it, and that starts a whole mystery. And that's really about all I remember. I know that he returns in this book, and I think they figure out a way that they can have a courtship and a romance. I don't know if he becomes Amish or if she becomes English. I can't remember that at all, but I just know that these books were fantastic. Now, if you look these up on Goodreads, you'll see that there's a book 3. That's actually a standalone. It's called The Sanctuary. It's written by Beverly Lewis and her husband David, and I'm not really sure why it's paired in with this set of books. It's a good book. I listened to it a year or two ago. It's about a young Amish woman who is trying to escape from organized crime. She's somehow related, or I don't know exactly, but she's wanted by an organized crime syndicate, and she hides out in Amish country. So that's why it's called The Sanctuary. But it really doesn't have anything to do with these books, I don't think. I mean, it can certainly be read as a standalone. And I think even on Beverly Lewis's website, it's listed as a standalone. And these are listed as a duology. So anyway, highly, highly recommend these books, and also The Shunning, The Confession, and The Reckoning. I also, a couple years ago, read a little novella by her. That's not really an Amish book, but it's one of her earlier standalones. It's called The Sunroom, and it's about a little girl. They live in Amish country, but they're not Amish people, and much like Beverly Lewis growing up herself. And she's a pianist, and her mother is diagnosed with cancer, and so the little girl makes some kind of a deal with God and about her piano playing in regards to her mother surviving and all of that kind of stuff. So then nobody can figure out why she's not playing the piano, why she's so unhappy, and it all has to do with, you know, her trying to make deals with God, that kind of thing. It's really a heartfelt story. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's very short, so I highly recommend that if you can find it. It's one of her older books. So then, more recently, I found The Fiddler, and I brought it home and discovered that it's book 1 in the Home to Hickory Hollow series, and there are a few characters mentioned in this book that are in the Shunning. So perhaps it's all the same. It's been so long since I read the Shunning, but I did recognize a few character names. So they're related, they're connected, but still, this is its own series. This is about a woman who is a violinist. She's a very accomplished violinist, and she also is a fiddler on the side. And her parents don't know, and her agent does find out. She even has a boyfriend who is also an accomplished violinist. He doesn't know. So she's been at a country music festival playing under a different name, and she's on her way back home and has a flat tire in like a pouring down rainstorm. She manages to find a little cabin, and the person who's there is this young Amish man who has gone there to get away from kind of being under the thumb of his parents, because he wants to, I believe, be a does he want to be a writer? I want to say he wants to study. He wants to go to college. And that's not something that is smiled upon in the Amish faith. So he's wanting higher education. So he's there to study. And so he helps her get her car back on the road and invites her to come back to where his family live. And she ends up staying the weekend with his cousins or neighbor or something. And they get acquainted. And, eventually, even though they're from, I think, well, I don't want to give you the stories. There is a romance, but, you can't be unequally yoked. One or the other has to change. And a lot of times in these stories, they both are willing to change. So it kind of goes from there. But anyway, then I did listen to book 2 of this series on the Audible Escape package. It's The Bridesmaid. And it's about this young man's cousin who's always a bridesmaid, never a bride. And she finally does get enter into a courtship with this young man. She meets him at one of these weddings, I think, but he lives in another state. Well, that's not going to work. So it goes from there. So I did finish that book yesterday, and that was really good. This is a 5-book series. The other 3 are not on Audible Escape, but they are on ebook on Hoopla. So at some point, maybe next year or during the year or whenever, I will try to at least I'll work on that series. It will not be able to go. I will not go as fast with those if I can't get them on audio, but I will eventually work my way through the Home to Hickory Hollow series. So now Beverly Lewis started as a children's author. She wrote several children's series that were published all before she became a famous Amish author. And I looked up some of those, and I was able to find that our library, one of the ones that's still functioning and sending out books by mail and doing curbside, they had quite a few of this books from this series called The Cul-de-sac Kids. So I ordered 2 of them. This is book 5 and book 6 in the Cul-de-sac Kids series. This is really for about middle elementary. It says that the AR code for these is 2.8 and 2.9, which is like upper 2nd grade, lower 3rd grade level, reading level. And so I read one of these today, Frog Power. It was really cute. It's about these kids who all live in this cul-de-sac, and they go to school together. Several of them are in the 3rd grade, and I think a couple of their siblings are in the 1st grade. And they were having a pet day at school on this particular day, and they all got to bring their pets to school. So here's their cul-de-sac, and it tells where each of them live, and here's their school. So they walk to school together, and I thought it was delightful. Very, very cute. So there's 24 of these cul-de-sac kids books. And she also has 2 other middle grade series, and then another series that I have read, and these are listed as upper middle grade, 13 to or 11 to 14, but the main character in these books is 15, I think 14 and 15. So I definitely consider these YA books. But I listened to these last year when Emily was in the hospital. I listened to them on Hoopla. My editions are bound up copies. Summerhill Secrets, Volume 1 is the first 5 stories, and then Volume 2 is the next 5. These were originally published as 10 separate stories. So you could say that within these two volumes, that's 10 books that I have read by Beverly Lewis, and I love them. I thought they were fantastic. It's about a girl who's not Amish, but she lives in Amish country. She has some Amish relatives and Amish friends, and she's a Christian. I think she's Mennonite. Each story builds on the next, and I just thought they were delightful. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed them. So that's about the extent of what I have read by Beverly Lewis. Now, she does have over 100 books. She has 8 different series for adults. So I have only read, I've completed 2 of those series and then started the Hickory Hollow. So I've still got quite a bit by her that I have not read. She has 16 standalones that are fiction, and then 2 nonfiction books. One of them is a cookbook, and one is a book called Amish Prayers. And then for children, she has the 4 series, the elementary series I showed you, and then 2 middle grade series, and then the one that I consider more YA it's appropriate for middle grade or YA, really. So basically 4 series that are considered youth fiction. And then she has 6 picture books. So I will leave a link below to her website. She has frequently asked questions there. It lists her biography and how she got started and was inspired to write at all, and then to later write about Amish people and a little bit about her research into that culture. And so if you're interested, then check that out. But I think she's a fantastic author. I have thoroughly enjoyed everything that I've read by her, and I plan to continue reading more books by Beverly Lewis. So that's about all I have for this video. I hope you are having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.